President Barack Obama, he spoke at the Obama Foundation Summit in Chicago on Tuesday. He had this to say about change and political wokeness.
You know, this idea of purity and you're never compromised and you're always politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that quickly. The world is messy. There are ambiguities. But I do get a sense sometimes now among certain young people, and this is accelerated by social media, there is this sense sometimes of the way of me making change is to be as judgmental as possible about other people. And that's enough. Like if I tweet or hashtag about how you didn't do something right or used the wrong verb, or then I can sit back and feel pretty good about myself because, man, you see how woke I was? I called you out.
That's peak Obama right there.
So Obama.
I always am reminded of how much I do not miss him every time he talks. And, you know, he's like, well, folks, you know, try and get something done, folks. That's like his entire politics, right? Like that's his entire thing is oriented around, you can't put purity tests on me because you don't know how hard it was to govern in the moment. It's like, no, we do actually, because you didn't do anything.
See, I have I think my feelings about him are understandably more complicated. Like, I like him as a human being. I really like him.
That's what everybody always says.
And I think here's the thing. Like, if someone else said that same thing that he just said, I'd be like, yeah, I'm with you. I agree with you. The cancel culture thing. But it does annoy me coming from him. This idea that the party has become too woke. Because look, my issue with identity politics, I'm there on all these issues. Like, I'm with you, absolutely. But the problem is they've been hijacked by people who want to only do the woke signaling and not actually doing the underlying systemic work to make things better for people. Right. So you can signal culturally and be more woke and use the right buzzwords and all those things. Like Kamala Harris coming out and saying my gender pronouns are her, hers. Like, okay, great. Like, I'm down with that. People, you know, live your lives. I don't care. But it's used as a signaling device to keep from actually having a plan to help the oppressed communities that you're talking about. So, and look, that was the trend under the Obama administration. I mean, he is a big part of pushing the party in that direction, or I should say continuing to push the party in that direction, because it really started under Bill Clinton.
And he enabled it. That's the main thing.
He enabled it.
He pushed these people. He allowed them to do. He didn't do anything for the working class or the middle class of this country. And look, I actually thought this was a weird defense of Joe Biden, possibly. There was a big debate about this.
You think so?
This morning about the purity test in particular. Because let's be honest, what he really is saying is that you can't have these purity tests imposed on the Democratic Party because you don't understand how hard it was for us whenever we were enacting all of these terrible policies.
Right.
And it's possible for us to change our mind. That's how I read it, which is, look, it's true. The Obama legacy is under attack by everybody because it's a terrible legacy. What is the message of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren? Is that the government is broken, has been now systemically for decades, and that Barack Obama, more than anybody, presided over the true, I think, descend into whatever the hell it is that's going on in our country today. And on the right, it's the same thing. All of it really begins and ends with him.
And the historic nature of his candidacy and presidency, so important, but it doesn't make
He's a failure.
It doesn't make up for the fact that those policies ultimately, look, your presidency ended and we got Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen him do any soul searching, just like I've never seen Hillary Clinton do any soul searching about what that says about his legacy.
Oh, he already has. He says, maybe the country wasn't ready for me. He is the most arrogant man to ever walk the face of this earth.
Kind of an answer.
And he truly believes that he was like this Puritan savior that did his best while he was in the White House, has no capacity for the introspection of the policies that he pushed, the people that he enabled, his, you know, the failures of on Wall Street, on foreign wars, on, you know, competition in our marketplace. I mean, this is the guy in 2011 was giving a speech and we're like, we're the country of Google and Facebook. I mean, he is neoliberal to his core. At the end, I think David Remnick, he gave, you guys can tell I really hate Obama, but he gave an interview to David Remnick, of course, of the New Yorker, and he was like, "Oh well, I just really believe the arc of history bends." It's like he believes these things, right? Like,
well, and there's also this posture, very consistent, which is he's always like one step removed, observing. and pronouncing rather than being in the fight.
And you were in this, man.
And that was his thing. I mean, and his innovation was he really did have this grassroots movement. This is something we talk about around the Bernie Sanders movement conversation. He really did. I mean, so many people that I know who are my age came into politics and worked on their first campaign and gave money to their first campaign, et cetera, because of Barack Obama. He really did have that status. But at the same time, Wall Street loved him. Silicon Valley loved him. He took money from all of them, and then he staffs up his administration in this very conventional way.
Larry Summers.
Goldman Sachs way, and like basically dismissed the movement like, thank you very much, have a nice day. And that's the story of the Obama presidency. I mean, he never was... Look, Republicans caricatured him as a socialist, as like, oh, he's going to fundamentally transform. I wish. Are you kidding me? Like, he was a very conventional politician who happened to have a, an historic identity, which again, I don't want to downplay. That matters. But the policies and what you did and the fact that, to bring this full circle, you basically led the party into this place where woke signaling is all anyone really has to hold on to is, that's the legacy.
I think he's a nice guy. I would love to have him as my neighbor.
Good family man,
and
good values,
But that's not that's not what it means to actually fight. And what did Barack Obama fight for other than himself? Nothing. All he ever did is he won himself an election. He invented the modern presidency of only using executive action. Never was able to do anything through Congress. He's one of the worst legislative presidents to ever live if you look at his record. And I think when the history books are written, the first line of his obituary, as Peter Baker, his biographer, said, was written the day of his election. I don't think we're going to remember much more about what he actually did than what he represented and the era.
Yeah.
It was the end of an era. He encapsulated neoliberalism and gave us the populism of today.
And think about, he had control of the House.
Of course he did.
They had a super majority in the Senate. And what did you got like
nothing.
The healthcare is an improvement. Right. I don't want to say it's not, but it was basically like, industry approved healthcare reform. You could have changed the game for union rights. You could have changed the game for climate change. You could have actually had Medicare for all if you really were willing to fight, but it wasn't. Yeah. Nor does he even believe in that, I don't think.
No, he doesn't.
All right, those are our thoughts. We're rising after this.